Welcome back to the channel Coins Buyers, and thank you for joining us today as we dive deep into one of the most fascinating topics in the world of coin collecting, a topic that has captured the interest and curiosity of thousands of collectors and enthusiasts around the world, and that is the incredible story and value behind a simple yet extraordinary coin, the 1979 1-cent penny from the United States. A coin that at first glance seems to hold only its modest face value of just 1 cent. Yet due to a combination of factors including minting errors, mistakes, variations in mint marks, and other anomalies, this small piece of copper-plated zinc can command astonishing prices that reach up to $77,000 or even more in the numismatic market, making it a dream find for collectors who understand the intricacies of coin grading, rarity, and historical context. And today we're going to explore in depth exactly what makes this penny so special, why some variations are worth thousands while others remain close to face value, and how you might identify whether that coin sitting in your change jar could actually be worth a life-changing amount of money, because the truth is that most people never take the time to examine their loose change, yet among those coins there might be treasures hiding in plain sight, and the 1979 penny is one of those treasures under the right circumstances. So let's start by talking about the context of this coin, minted in the year 1979 at the Denver Mint as indicated by the D mint mark located just beneath the date on the obverse of the coin, and during this era, the Lincoln Memorial design was in full circulation, having been introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, replacing the earlier wheat ears reverse design that had been in use since 1909. And these Lincoln Memorial cents were mass-produced in huge quantities, billions each year, which might lead you to believe that no single coin from this era could ever hold extraordinary value because of such high mintages, but this is where the story takes an unexpected turn, because while regular strikes are indeed common and worth only face value or a few cents in circulated condition, certain examples with errors or unique minting anomalies have skyrocketed in value, turning what appears to be a common penny into a collector's prize worth thousands, and in some cases tens of thousands of dollars, and the 1979 penny has its share of such valuable varieties. So what kind of errors can make this coin worth up to $77,000, you might wonder, and the answer lies in a fascinating range of possibilities such as double die errors where the design elements like the date, the inscription such as Liberty or I in God We Trust, or even the mint mark appear doubled due to a misalignment during the hubbing process. And such doubling can be extremely dramatic or very subtle, with the most dramatic examples fetching the highest prices at auction, and then there are off-center strikes where the design is not properly centered on the planchette, sometimes leaving parts of the design missing and exposing a blank area of metal, and the more off-center the strike while still showing the date and mint mark, the more desirable the coin becomes to collectors, and then we have broad strikes, die cracks, clipped planchets, and other planchette errors that can also add significant premiums, but among the most valuable errors for the 1979 penny are those involving the mint mark itself, because during this period mint marks were still hand-punched onto the working dies rather than being part of the master die as they are today, which means variations such as a repunched mint mark, where the D appears doubled or tripled, can occur and create a collectible rarity. And when these errors combine with other anomalies like a double die or a high-grade uncirculated condition with full original red luster, the value can skyrocket to astonishing levels. And speaking of condition, let's not forget how critical grade is in determining a coin's value, because a 1979 penny in heavily circulated condition with an error might still bring a premium over face value, but a similar coin in mint state, especially MS65 or higher, can sell for exponentially more. And when certified by a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC, these coins inspire confidence among collectors and investors, fueling competitive bidding that drives prices to record highs, which brings us back to that jaw-dropping figure of $77,000, which was achieved by an exceptional specimen that combined a rare error with pristine condition, illustrating how the perfect storm of factors can transform a humble cent into a numismatic superstar. And if you're wondering how you can identify whether your 1979 penny might be one of these valuable pieces, the first step is to carefully examine the coin under good lighting, perhaps with a magnifying glass or even a jeweller's loupe, paying close attention to the date, the mint mark, and the inscriptions for any signs of doubling, misalignment, or irregularities, and look at the rim and overall centering of the design to detect off-center strikes, while also checking for die cracks or unusual shapes that could indicate planchette flaws. And if you find something that appears unusual, it's worth comparing it to reference images from trusted numismatic sources, or submitting the coin for professional evaluation, because authentication is key in this hobby, and serious collectors value accuracy and expertise, which is why grading services not only verify authenticity but also encapsulate the coin in tamper-evident holders that protect its condition and display its grade for future buyers, increasing market confidence and often adding value. And while we're discussing value, it's important to note that not every error is created equal, and not every anomaly will make a coin valuable, because the degree of rarity and the level of demand among collectors play major roles. So while a minor die crack might add a few dollars, a dramatic double die or major off-center strike could add hundreds or thousands, and when combined with near-perfect surfaces, original red luster, and strong eye appeal, those numbers soar even higher. So as you can see, the world of coin collecting is a blend of art, history, and detective work, and coins like the 1979 D penny remind us that treasures still exist in everyday places, waiting to be discovered by those who know what to look for. And before we wrap up, let's consider why these errors happen in the first place, because the minting process, while highly sophisticated, is not immune to human error or mechanical mishaps. And back in 1979, the technology was less automated than it is today, meaning more room for inconsistencies. So when a die was improperly prepared, misaligned, or damaged, or when a planchet was defective, those imperfections sometimes slipped through quality control and entered circulation. And while most of those flawed coins were likely caught and destroyed, some escaped and became the prized rarities that collectors now chase. And this chase is what makes the hobby so exciting, because every coin tells a story, and every find feels like a personal victory. So whether you're an experienced numismatist or just starting out, keep your eyes open, because the next big discovery could be in your pocket change. And with the 1979 D penny, that discovery could mean turning a single cent into $77,000 or more, which is a return on investment like no other. And that's why it's always worth paying attention to the smallest details, because in the world of coins, details are everything. And as we close today's discussion, I hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the incredible potential value hidden within the 1979 D Lincoln cent, a coin that proves once again that in numismatics, knowledge is power, and those who learn to recognize the signs of rarity can reap the rewards. So keep searching, keep learning, and who knows, the next time you open your wallet, you might just find a piece of history worth a small fortune. Thank you for watching, and if you found this information valuable, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more fascinating stories from the world of rare coins. And until next time, happy collecting, and may your next penny be the one that changes your life forever, because the excitement of this hobby lies in its unpredictability, and it is that sense of discovery and wonder that keeps collectors engaged generation after generation, creating a vibrant community bound by a shared passion for preserving these tiny pieces of history that carry with them not just monetary value but cultural significance, linking us to the past while reminding us that even the smallest things can have the greatest impact when viewed through the lens of rarity, condition, and historical context. So as you continue your collecting journey, remember that patience, attention to detail, and a little bit of luck are your best allies. And who knows, perhaps one day your story will be the one inspiring others to look closely at their change and embark on their own quest for hidden treasures. And with that, we conclude this exploration into the fascinating world of the 1979 D Lincoln cent and its potential to turn an ordinary penny into an extraordinary payday, a reminder that sometimes the most valuable things are hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone like you to recognize their worth and give them the appreciation they deserve in the grand tapestry of numismatic history. Because after all, every coin has a story, and some stories are worth far more than their weight in copper. So thank you once again for joining us, and as always, keep hunting, keep dreaming, and may your next find be nothing short of spectacular, where we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare coins and discover why an ordinary-looking penny from 1983, a simple 1-cent coin, can actually be worth an astonishing $98,000. Yes, you heard that right, a single penny that most people wouldn't think twice about could potentially transform your pocket change into a small fortune. So stay with me until the very end, because I'm going to share every detail about why this particular coin has become such a valuable collectible, the specific errors and mistakes that make it incredibly rare, the variations you should look for, and the possibilities that make this coin stand out from millions of other pennies minted in the same year. And trust me when I say you don't want to miss a single piece of information, because what you learn today might just lead you to your own lucky find that changes your life. So let's start with a little background before we dig into the jaw-dropping errors that drive up the value. of this 1983 1-cent penny to such an unbelievable level. Now the penny, as most of you know, is a coin that has been around in the United States for well over a century, and the design of the Lincoln cent, which features the portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, has been in circulation since 1909, and over the decades this coin has undergone several changes in design, composition, and minting technology, but for our purposes today we are focusing on the year 1983, which was a transitional period for the US Mint in terms of the metal composition used to produce pennies. You see, prior to 1982, pennies were primarily made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, making them relatively heavy and giving them the distinctive reddish hue associated with older pennies. However, in 1982, due to rising copper prices, the Mint made a critical decision to change the composition to a core of 97.5% zinc with just a thin copper plating amounting to 2.5%, which made the coin significantly lighter and more cost-effective to produce. But this transition was not as simple as flipping a switch. It involved complex adjustments in the minting process, and as with any major change, mistakes can and did happen, and those mistakes are the key to why the 1983 penny can be worth so much money today. Now, in 1983, the Mint was fully producing these zinc-based pennies with copper plating, but the equipment and processes were still adapting to this new standard, leading to a variety of errors and anomalies, and collectors today highly prize these because they are so scarce and so distinctive. Let me explain the most notable of these errors and why they command such astronomical values, starting with the famous 1983 double die reverse penny. This particular error occurs when the die that strikes the reverse side of the coin has an image that was improperly hubbed, causing the design to be impressed twice with a slight shift, and the result is a strong doubling effect most visible on the inscriptions such as 1 cent and United States of America, and sometimes even the E pluribus unum motto. And because this type of doubling is a true die error, it's not just a case of machine doubling or damage after minting, it's a genuine mint mistake that makes the coin extremely collectible. Now, an authentic 1983 double die reverse penny in high-grade condition can fetch thousands of dollars at auction. And if it's in near-perfect uncirculated condition with a strong strike, bright luster, and minimal marks, the value skyrockets. Some of these have sold for over $15,000 and in some cases even higher, depending on the buyer's demand and the coin's overall appeal. But that's just one type of error. Another category that makes 1983 pennies valuable are off-metal strikes. And this is where things get really exciting, because these involve coins being struck on planchets meant for other denominations or for older compositions. For example, there have been verified cases of 1,983 pennies struck on 95% copper planchets from pre-year 1982 stock, and because the official composition for 1983 was zinc core with copper plating, any coin from that year that is solid copper is a major error. These copper transitional errors have sold for tens of thousands of dollars because they are so rare and virtually impossible to find unless by sheer luck or diligent searching. And what makes them even more desirable is the difficulty of authenticating them without proper equipment. Since the weight difference is the primary indicator, a zinc penny weighs 2.5 grams whereas a copper penny weighs 3.1 grams, so if you have a 1983 penny and it tips the scale at 3.1 grams, you might be holding a treasure worth tens of thousands. But let's not stop there, because mint mark errors also play a huge role in value. Mint marks identify which facility produced the coin, such as Philadelphia, P, Denver, D, or San Francisco, S. And in 1983 proof coins were struck at the San Francisco Mint with an S mint mark, while circulation coins came from Philadelphia and Denver. But errors such as missing mint marks, repunched mint marks, or even inverted mint marks have been reported, and these errors can significantly raise a coin's value, especially when combined with other factors like die varieties or superior grade. And speaking of grade, let's not underestimate how critical condition is to determining a coin's worth. Because while an average circulated 1983 penny might still only be worth a cent, an uncirculated example with a dramatic error can leap from a few $100s to several thousand or even tens of thousands. And this is where collectors and investors get truly excited, because high-grade coins certified by reputable grading services like PCGS or NGC often command premium prices in auctions. But why is a single penny worth $98,000? What specific factors align to create such a valuation? Well, the answer lies in a combination of extreme rarity, condition, and desirability among serious collectors. For instance, if you have a 1983 penny that is not only struck on a copper planchet instead of zinc but also features a bold double die reverse and happens to be in gem mint state condition, you're talking about a coin that checks every box for rarity and collectability. And this perfect storm of attributes is what can push the value up to that breathtaking figure of $98,000 or even more in some cases, depending on the market demand at the time of sale. And remember, coin values are influenced by supply and demand dynamics within the numismatic community, so when a rare variety is discovered and word spreads among collectors, bidding wars can erupt at major auctions, driving prices into the stratosphere. And these moments often make headlines in the coin collecting world because they highlight how even the smallest denomination in our currency system, something as humble as a penny, can hold immense value when rarity and error converge. Now let's dig deeper into the psychology and economics behind this phenomenon, because understanding why people are willing to pay such staggering amounts for what is essentially a 1-cent coin requires looking at more than just metal composition and minting anomalies. It taps into the human desire to own something unique, a tangible piece of history that very few others can claim. And that sense of exclusivity, coupled with the thrill of the hunt and the pride of discovery, fuels a collector's passion and willingness to pay top dollar. And beyond personal satisfaction, there's also the investment angle, because rare coins have historically appreciated in value over time, especially those with well-documented rarity and strong demand, making them not just a collector's item but also a potential financial asset. And when you combine all these elements, the historical context, the minting transition, the errors and varieties, the scarcity of surviving examples, the condition rarity, the collector psychology, you begin to see why a single 1983 penny can be valued at $98,000. And this brings us to the practical question that every viewer is probably asking right now: how can you find one? What should you look for? And how do you make sure you don't overlook a potential jackpot sitting in your loose change jar? Well, the first step is awareness. And by watching this video, you've already taken that step, because now you know that 1983 pennies are not all created equal and some could be worth a fortune. So start by checking every 1983 penny you come across. Examine the reverse for strong doubling, especially on the 1-cent inscription and the United States of America text. Look for any anomalies in the mint mark, and most importantly, weigh the coin, because as I mentioned earlier, a genuine copper planchet error will weigh around 3.1 grams, whereas a standard zinc penny will weigh about 2.5 grams, and you don't need expensive equipment to do this. A simple digital scale that measures in grams with 2 decimal places will suffice. And if you find a coin that meets these criteria, don't clean it, because cleaning can drastically reduce its value. Instead, handle it carefully by the edges and consider sending it to a reputable grading service for authentication and encapsulation, which not only confirms its authenticity but also enhances its market value by giving buyers confidence. And let's not forget that even if you don't find the ultimate $98,000 penny, there are plenty of other valuable 1983 varieties that can earn you hundreds or even thousands of dollars. So every coin you check is a chance at discovering something special. And this is what makes coin collecting so exciting, because every penny, nickel, dime, quarter, or dollar bill could hold a hidden surprise, a story waiting to be uncovered. And the next great find might just be in your pocket right now. So as we unravel the incredible story of a humble-looking United States 1-cent penny from 1986, a coin that you might easily overlook in your pocket change, yet certain rare varieties of this coin have been known to sell for staggering amounts, some even fetching up to $68,000, which is mind-blowing when you consider its original face value is just 1 cent. So how does a tiny copper-plated zinc coin become a small fortune, and what makes this particular year so fascinating for collectors and enthusiasts alike? Well, stick around, because we're going to explore the history, the background, the minting details, the mistakes, the mint mark errors, the striking anomalies, and all those hidden factors that transform an ordinary penny into a jackpot for lucky finders. Now first, let's take a quick look at the context. In 1986, the US Mint was producing pennies primarily using a copper-plated zinc composition, which had been introduced in 1982 to replace the nearly pure copper planchets used previously due to rising metal costs. So the 1986 Lincoln cent features the classic design introduced in 1909 by Victor David Brenner, with Abraham Lincoln's bust on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Now at first glance, these coins seem completely ordinary. Billions were struck that year across 3 mint facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. So how could any of them possibly be worth more than pocket change? The answer lies in minting errors, anomalies, and certain rare varieties that slipped through quality control during production. These kinds of mistakes are what collectors dream about because they create uniqueness and scarcity, and when something is both rare and highly desired by collectors, its value skyrockets. For 1986 pennies, there are several notable error types that have been documented, and many still undiscovered pieces could be hiding in plain sight. Among the most famous error categories are double die errors, off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, and particularly mint mark errors. Each of these anomalies has its own story and level of desirability. Let's begin with double die errors because these are among the most popular with numismatists. A double die error occurs when the die used to strike the coin has an image that was misaligned during hubbing, resulting in letters, numbers, or design features appearing doubled on the struck coin. For 1986 cents, this could mean doubling on the motto "In God We Trust," on the word liberty, or on the date itself. If you ever find strong visible doubling, especially on the obverse, you could be holding a coin worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on condition. Then there are off-center strikes, which happen when the coin blank isn't properly seated in the striking chamber, causing part of the design to be missing and leaving a blank crescent-shaped area on the coin. The more dramatic the off-center percentage and the more readable the date and mint mark remain, the higher the value. Slight off-centers might only be worth a few dollars, but severe ones can go for hundreds, sometimes even more. Now another fascinating error is the broad strike, where the retaining collar fails during the strike and the metal spreads out, creating a coin that's wider and thinner than normal. These look quite odd and are very collectible. Then we have clipped planchette errors, where a piece of the coin blank is literally missing due to a cutting mishap. During planchette preparation, these clips can be curved or straight depending on the error type, and they always spark interest among error coin enthusiasts. Now let's talk about mint mark anomalies, which are particularly important for 1986 pennies because the Denver Mint, marked by D, and San Francisco Mint, S, produced coins with hand-punched mint marks during certain periods. So repunched mint marks or RPMs can exist. For instance, a D punched twice slightly misaligned can create a visible doubling effect on the mint mark, and such RPM varieties are highly collectible. Then there's the possibility of a missing mint mark on a coin that should have won, which is rare but can happen if the die preparation skipped that step, and such pieces become extremely desirable. Now here's something that elevates 1986 pennies into the realm of big money: transitional errors. While most 1986 pennies were made from copper-plated zinc weighing about 2.5 grams, there are occasional reports of coins struck on leftover copper planchets from pre-year 1983 stock. These would weigh around 3.11 grams, and such transitional wrong planchette errors can be astronomical in value, easily hitting thousands of dollars or more if authenticated, because these mistakes represent a fascinating moment in minting history. Another incredible category is wrong planchette strikes, where the cent design is accidentally struck on a planchette intended for another denomination like a dime or foreign coin. These are extraordinarily rare and command massive premiums at auction. Now imagine finding a 1986 penny that combines more than one error, such as an off-center strike with a double die, or a broad strike on a wrong planchette. These so-called multiple error coins are the holy grail for error collectors, and their values soar into the tens of thousands. In fact, some verified examples of extreme or compound errors from this era have indeed brought hammer prices exceeding $50,000 to $68,000 or more at major numismatic auctions. But condition matters greatly. Most of these values assume coins in uncirculated or near mint state, because even rare errors lose significant value if heavily worn or damaged. So if you're lucky enough to find something unusual among your change or inherit an old collection, the first step is to check its weight, its appearance, and details like the date, mint mark, alignment, and any oddities in the strike. Using a magnifier or microscope can reveal doubling, repunched marks, or die cracks that the naked eye might miss. Then consult reliable references or submit the coin to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC, because certified authentication boosts buyer confidence and thus market value dramatically. Now let's not forget proof coins, because the San Francisco Mint produced proof sets in 1986, and while most proofs are common and worth only a few dollars over face value, any proof with an error such as a missing cameo, an inverted design, or major strike anomaly could be extremely valuable. Errors on proofs are rare because quality control is stricter, making them even more desirable when they surface. All these factors explain why the humble 1986 penny has this incredible duality: billions of ordinary coins worth face value and a handful of spectacular rarities worth life-changing amounts, and the thrill of the hunt keeps collectors engaged because anyone, literally anyone, could stumble upon one of these treasures in everyday circulation, garage sales, or old piggy banks, and that's what makes coin collecting such a fascinating pursuit. Its history, art, and economics rolled into a small piece of metal, and in the case of the 1986 1-cent coin, it's also a story about how human error, mechanical quirks, and a bit of luck can turn a cent into thousands of dollars. So next time you see a penny from 1986, don't dismiss it. Take a closer look, because you never know if that tiny coin might just be your ticket to an unbelievable payday and an amazing story to share with the world.